Speaking Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy on the sidelines of the Munich Security Conference, US President JD Vance stressed that the Trump administration's goal is to achieve a lasting peace to prevent another conflict from erupting in the near future. In response, Zelenskyy expressed his gratitude for the American support, underscoring that Ukraine needs real security guarantees in order for a lasting peace agreement to be achieved.
Good afternoon, everybody. We're, of course, happy to welcome the Ukrainian delegation led by President Zelenskyy. We had a number of fruitful conversations, a number of things for us to follow up and work on. And fundamentally, the goal is, as President Trump outlined it, we want the war to come to a close. We want the killing to stop, but we want to achieve a durable, lasting peace, not the kind of peace that's going to have Eastern Europe in conflict just a couple years down the road. So we had a number of good conversations about how we might accomplish that together, and certainly we'll have many more in the days, weeks, and months to come. President Zelenskyy. President Zelenskyy.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Very briefly, I think Vice President said everything and absolutely correct. We are very thankful for American support. President Trump, we have good conversation today. Our first meeting, not last, I'm sure, and really what we need to speak more, to work more, and to prepare the plan how to stop Putin and finish the war. We want peace very much, but we need real security guarantees, and we will continue our meetings and our work, and we will be very happy to see General Kalak also in Ukraine in this closest time. Thank you, Vice President, for meeting. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you so much.
Move forward if Ukraine is not ready to come to the table with Putin. If Ukraine is not ready to speak with Putin at the table, how do you move forward? Will you still negotiate?
Well, look, I think the way that this conversation moves us forward is, first of all, you have great members of the Ukrainian delegation. You have our incredible Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, here. We have General Kellogg. It's important for us to get together and start to have the conversations that are going to be necessary to bring this thing to a close. That's all I'm going to say for now, because I want to preserve the optionality here from the negotiators and our respective teams to bring this thing to a responsible close. Thank you all and have a good night.
Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has expressed deep concern about the ongoing war and the crucial role of the United States' support in Ukraine's survival. His comments come amid US President Donald Trump's recent conversation with Russian President Vladimir Putin, suggesting the possibility of negotiations to end the war.
Probably it will be very, very difficult. And of course, in all the difficult situations, you have a chance, but we will have low chance to survive without support of the United States. I think it's very important, critical. But I don't want to think about it. Yes, we have to think about it. I don't want to think that we will not be strategic partners. I don't want to think about it because it will make a pressure on morality of Ukrainians, and it will be worse the thing from the very beginning of the war. But we increased our production. That we really can count on our level of defending industry, but it's not enough.
How do the people of Ukraine feel about the United States and its proposed peace talks? We feel betrayed, said Miroslava, a 23-year-old student. While Ukrainians are tired of the war, they remain skeptical of the ongoing political maneuvering. We now move to Kiev, where our correspondent Oz Kateji joins us live. Hello, Oz. So can you tell us more about the mood in Ukraine right now, as the talks in Munich are now in full swing?
Good morning, Jonas. Well, look, there's obviously a lot of exasperation here in Kyiv with things like Donald Trump calling Putin before calling Zelenskyy. That seems to have gone down rather badly. It's important to note that we are really light on details of any kind of plan being put forward by the US. So there really isn't any detail that people here can dig into to start trying to assess what the US plans mean for Ukraine, what they mean for the war. There's just a lot of talk coming from US officials, and some of it is contradictory, to put it lightly. So let's take a listen to what some Ukrainians had to say about how they feel about the ongoing developments.
I think it's awful. Of course, his idea to stop this war is great, but not asking what Ukraine says, speaking only with Putin directly without us, it's a disaster for us.
What his plans are is to rob Ukraine of as much as possible, not to make peace here. I find it difficult to understand why would anyone make the first call, a call to a president of a country that has attacked another country, a president who is a terrorist, and only after that talk to the president of a country that has to defend itself. It is a very surprising decision made by President Trump, very strange. I do not want to see everything in black, as they say, but it looks like Ukraine has been betrayed.
So there you can hear quite clearly the people here in Kyiv are getting rather frustrated with these talks and how they're developing. But as I said, it's really difficult for people to gauge what's going on without getting those kinds of details. And as the proposals are very detail light at the moment, that confusion, that frustration looks set to continue until we see more clarity, at least from the United States. Back to you, Jonas.
Oz Kataji there, reporting live from Kyiv. Oz, thank you very much for joining us here today. Now, as the Munich Security Conference enters its second day, the focus shifts to critical regional challenges and Euro-Atlantic security. The day's agenda is packed with high-level discussions on global security dynamics, starting with a roundtable on the geoeconomics of the Arctic and continuing with panels on the future of NATO and Europe's evolving role. One of key highlights will be the discussion on countering hybrid warfare in the Baltic Sea. Experts are set to delve into the growing threat of hybrid operations, particularly in the context of Russia's recent activities, including attacks on the Chernobyl plant. Meanwhile, US-Ukraine cooperation will take center stage as Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelenskyy joins discussions on his country's future, highlighting the ongoing need for transatlantic support amidst the crisis. Poland's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Radosław Sikorski, will also feature prominently in a panel on the new geopolitical role of Europe. As tensions rise across the continent, the conversation will center around Europe's growing influence in global security and how it can address emerging threats. The day promises to set the stage for further discussions on nuclear risks, hybrid threats, and Europe's place on the world stage as it continues to navigate a rapidly changing security landscape. Ukrainian MP Oleksiy Goncharenko has reacted to remarks by US Vice President JD Vance. Speaking at the Munich Security Conference, Goncharenko raised concerns about a potential shift towards isolationism in US foreign policy, questioning whether the current US administration is losing interest in Ukraine and Europe as a whole.
I understand that maybe this administration, there are a lot of saying they're just 1 month, so maybe it doesn't mean something super serious for the moment. But, you know, it's a wake-up call, and it's a wake-up call for all of us, first of all, for Europe. It looks like this current U.S. administration is not so much interested, not in Ukraine, not in Europe in general. That's reality, and we can't ignore it.
German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius has responded to the words of US Vice President JD Vance. At the ongoing Munich Security Conference, JD Vance accused European leaders of undermining democratic values. He paraphrased the words of Pope John Paul II, saying, "Do not be afraid to listen to your people, even when they express views that disagree with your leadership." Here is what Pistorius had to say in response.
We also fight so that you can oppose us. That is how the German army sees itself, and it also stands for our democracy. This democracy was called into question earlier by the US Vice President for the whole of Europe. He spoke of the annihilation of democracy, and, if I understood him correctly, he compared conditions in parts of Europe with those in authoritarian regimes. Ladies and gentlemen, that is not acceptable. That is not acceptable. And this is not the Europe and not the democracy in which I live in and in which I am currently campaigning. This is not the democracy that I experience in our parliament. In this democracy, every opinion has a voice. It allows, in parts, extremist parties like the far-right AfD to campaign quite normally, just like any other party. That is democracy.
Das ist Demokratie.
The President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, has announced that she would propose to activate the so-called escape clause for defense investments. She added that this would allow member states to increase their defense spending.
That I will propose to activate the escape clause for defense investments. This will allow member states to substantially increase their defense expenditure. Of course, we will have to do this in a controlled and conditional way. And I will also propose a wider package of tailor-made tools to address the specific situation of each and every one of our member states, from their current levels of defense spending to their fiscal situation.
The US Secretary of Defense visited Poland on Friday. And if there is one thing Pete Hegseth emphasized, it was the need for Europe to take more responsibility for its own defense. He also said Poland is a role model for other countries in the region to follow. Our reporter Paweł Trzaskowski was there and has more.
This was the first bilateral meeting of the US Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, and the fact that it happened in Poland was not a coincidence, according to Hegseth himself. He said that Poland, planning to spend more than around 5% of its GDP on defense in 2025, shows that it takes its defense responsibilities seriously.
Member countries in NATO need to spend more, need to invest more, need to have more skin in the game for their collective defense. That is not just a suggestion from the United States of America, that is a direct request which we will follow up on as a reflection of their desire and commitment to actually defend their own backyard.
Poland is a country that understands the threats. It can see and feel because of its history, where the threats often meant that in our beloved country, were warlike activities, we basically had war. We didn't have our independence, and we didn't have opportunities of self-determination in this country. Having regained that, we know how important peace and freedom.
Secretary Hegseth later in the day also met with President of Poland, Andrzej Duda.
After today's conversation, I can say that I firmly believe that Fort Trump will indeed be built in our country, and that the period of Donald Trump's presidency will be a strengthening of the Polish-American alliance, including the military one, and thus of Poland's security.
Hard power, stepping up, and peace through strength. That was the main message of the US Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth during his Friday's visit to Poland. He said that Europe should not have the perception that the US will also be present on the continent, and therefore Europe should take the responsibility in its own hands, because only strong deterrence means lasting peace. From Warsaw, Poland, for TVP World, I'm Paweł Trzaskowski.
The Pentagon chief also did not rule out strengthening US military presence in Poland. Our correspondent Marek Steele visited one of the US Army facilities in the country and has this report.
The U.S. Army's Powice Air Base, which is located here in western Poland, is a vital hub for maintenance, transportation and aviation of U.S. troops stationed on the eastern flank of NATO, but especially in Poland. The new U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, who visited Poland on Friday, was scheduled to meet with troops here. However, this meeting has been postponed. The U.S. has been present in Poland for years, since 1999, when Poland joined NATO and became a vital military ally of the United States. The U.S. has been enhancing its presence here, and currently there are around 10,000 military personnel from the U.S. Army stationed in Poland. Of this number, more than 8,000 are U.S. soldiers. But they're present not only here in Powice, western Poland, they are also present, for instance, in the eastern regions of Poland, in Orzysz, Bemowo-Piskie training ground, but they're also part of the multinational division in Northeast, which is stationed together with other allied troops in Elbląg, that's in the north of Poland. But a vital center for the U.S. Army in Poland is Camp Kościuszko, the head of the U.S. Army garrison Poland, which is located in Poznań. But the United States also have permanent infrastructure placed in Poland, and last year U.S. troops, U.S. officials together with Polish officials opened an anti-missile base and base aimed at countering ballistic missiles located in northern Poland on the Baltic coast in Redzikowo. Pete Hegseth, who, as I mentioned, visited Poland on Friday, said that he did see room to enhance U.S. presence in Poland, so we might see the number of U.S. troops stationed in Poland rising. Marek Stiel-Powidz, TVP World.
And with this, we conclude our news bulletin. Please stay with us here on TVP World for more latest news and updates.